Okay, so first of all, these slides, I cannot take credit for these. These came from Ziegler, which Ziegler is basically an investment firm. They have a significant investment interest in senior living nationwide. So they are kind of a thought leader and constantly kind of evaluating the landscape and sharing with providers what they've learned, so that providers can continue to consider opportunities going forward. So these first couple slides are just a little bit more information about Ziegler and their national living experience. But we're going to get into the heart of it here. So just kind of setting the stage, the largest not-for-profit providers of care nationwide are faith-based affiliations. And so among the largest not-for-profit senior living providers in the country, roughly 8 out of 10 are faith-based, with Catholic providers being the third largest among various religious orders, among multi-site not-for-profits. So the largest, on that bar graph, the very left at the bottom, it says L, that's Lutheran, P is Presbyterian, and then CA is Catholic. So Catholic-sponsored organizations have about 32,867 units nationwide. And on the right there is some of the bigger players. CHI Living, they are the sponsor for St. Joseph's in London. Benedictine is based out of Minnesota, but they have a couple of facilities in Wisconsin, including Wausau and somewhere else in central Wisconsin that I'm blanking on right now. So we're familiar with a couple of these bigger providers. In terms of the actual numbers, Ascension Living is the largest. So Ascension Living is like a spin out of Ascension Health, like the hospital system. With Trinity is based out of Michigan. They also have like a hospital system. Benedictine is the one that really does not have a hospital system attached to it. Benedictine actually spun out from Essentia, and it just stands on their own now as a long-term care organization. They put our numbers in here way down at the bottom just to show what we look like in comparison to the very large players. Tim at our finance committee meeting last week told us that if you put St. Joe's in there, it gets us up to somewhere around this 100 and, did you say like 160 mark or something like that? Yeah. Yeah, so as a system, we rank up a little bit higher. So just some varied sponsorship of Catholic elder care. They can be directly diocesan owned or sponsored and owned by Catholic charities under the umbrella of the diocese. So that's kind of what McCormick, where McCormick was prior to our acquisition of them. They were actually under the umbrella of Catholic charities. They can be congregationally sponsored or owned, like us. They can be a public juridic person or other unique arrangements. And then, a lot of these are kind of within a Catholic health system. They have like a separate post-acute or senior living division. So the profile of Catholic elder care, there tends to be a heavy skilled nursing facility presence, which shouldn't be surprising, as that is, tends to be the Catholic mission, serving the oldest, the frailest, the poorest. Although there are some other Catholic organizations that are really looking to really minimize their skilled nursing presence or exit it altogether, including Milwaukee Catholic Home. The CEO of Milwaukee Catholic Home, his name is Dave, and he and I get along great. We're good buddies, but he and I could not be more different in terms of he wants nothing to do with nursing homes. He is all about independent living and hospitality and that sort of thing, where my heart really lies in the people who need that, care for the very, very frail. So there's some disconnect between some, Catholic providers. About 80% of Catholic providers do offer some sort of home and community-based services, such as home health, home care, hospice, PACE, and adult day. We currently offer 4 out of 5 of those, and as I shared, the PACE is one that we don't do right now, but we have a strong interest in exploring. About 45% of Catholic senior living providers also offer affordable housing for seniors. We do not at this point. So again, I think there is maybe some opportunity for us in terms of housing, maybe not all the, the big bells and whistles of the glorious independent living facilities that we're seeing in some places, but, something that is geared toward more that middle market, people who have some money to put towards their housing needs later in life, maybe geared specifically towards, an older population, but maybe not so much money that it kind of falls outside of our mission wheelhouse. And then approximately half of Catholic providers also provide management services for another provider, mainly other Catholic organizations, but some other just nonprofit, maybe other faiths or other nonprofit entities that run aging services organizations. So again, we don't do that right now, but I would say we are capable and we would like to do that if the need arose and an opportunity came our way and we felt it was a good fit. So really kind of a bifurcated provision of services. There's really like the large Catholic health systems or small Catholic sponsored organizations. Not a lot of that in between kind of size. Impact of the Catholic demographic trends on senior living. So I'm sure, as you are all aware, the number of women religious continues to drop and has dropped by 26% between 2010 and 2019, which has led to a lot of changes in sponsorships of healthcare organizations. Priests obviously have declined. The estimated average age of Catholic sisters in the US is 74. I'm not sure if you guys know what your average age is, but would you say roughly a little bit higher? Oh, okay. And then just a lot of growth in foreign-born Catholics in the United States. Overall growth observations. Before COVID, not-for-profit senior living growth was picking up. Because of COVID, some projects were put on hold, some are moving forward, but just a lot of variation in whether organizations are moving forward with that. And then for-profit growth of new locations continues to be high. So for-profit providers and developers know that there's money in this, and they will come into markets where they see an opportunity and try to take over and dominate the market. And for-profits have much easier access to capital than not-for-profits do, and the private sector money remains plentiful. So for-profit development is a significant threat to nonprofit providers at this point, and we all recognize that as an industry. Not-for-profit growth has really been mostly through affiliation and acquisition, and has been much more prevalent than growth through new development. Not-for-profits are actively reinvesting in existing campuses, which is kind of where we're thinking one of our next opportunities is. And then expansion of the continuum with home and community-based services platforms, including like joint ventures, are a big opportunity right now too. And there's some opportunity for us in that regard too. For example, Evergreen Retirement Community, which is a Methodist provider in Oshkosh, they have a home health agency, but not hospice. We have hospice, but not home health. So the CEO and I have talked several times over the years about, is there opportunity for us to collaborate and offer a home health and hospice joint venture? COVID really kind of interrupted those conversations, but I'm sure we'll get back to those at some point. So the primary drivers of nonprofit senior living consolidation, the top four that have really been accelerated and exacerbated and highlighted by COVID-19 is the ability to attract and retain staff, complexities of healthcare that just require some, efficiencies and kind of system-wide approaches, financial pressures, and leadership turnover. And as you can see, 2022 in comparison to previous decades, really there are just more factors at play in terms of, driving consolidation. So the COVID impact on senior living growth plans, unit expansion really slowed. New community development really kind of dropped off, largely because we just can't staff new developments. Affiliations and acquisitions really have kind of resumed, and home and community-based platforms have really grown and have been COVID driven because of the desire and the experience with doing more at home, and figuring out how to do that for more people. And then there's just some numbers there on growth plans in the next 2 years between multi-sites and single sites. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a slide in here that I think addresses that somewhere, that it's very little skilled nursing facility development, very heavy independent living and assisted living. Mm-hmm. Overall, senior living growth observations, again, nonprofit senior living growth, as I mentioned, new community development relatively flat. Primary growth is through expansions and community and reinvestment and affiliations and acquisitions. Multi-site providers have been more aggressive with plans. I think as you see that you can manage a couple different sites, it becomes clear that you can keep doing more, from maybe from one hub and more satellite campuses. And then, like I said, for-profit senior living growth, that continues to be high, and primarily focused on independent living and assisted living and memory care, very few adding or building new skilled nursing facilities. And then again, expansion of the continuum with home and community-based services. So this next slide, I think, is really interesting, and I think is really kind of relevant for us. The business model life cycle of a nonprofit, from founding to growth to maturity to kind of making plans that either put you on a path towards change and innovation and growth, or that kind of tend to avoid risk that causes slowness to change and lack of sophistication and resources. So I think we're kind of, in terms of me feeling like we need some strategic planning right now, I think we're kind of right at maturity point where we need to think about which direction we want to go in. And I think we all agree we want to go up, right? So facilitating growth, obviously this is just all kind of part of strategic planning, having those conversations about why grow, finding the right corporate structure and creating growth funds, making sure we have the human resources necessary to grow and take advantage of opportunities. The why grow conversation, again, I think is pretty self-evident at this point. Obviously, expanding the mission is the key. Diversifying business lines and revenue, enhancing customer experience with more services and programs, attracting better talent and leadership with career paths, and skill expansion, cost sharing, improved access to capital and credit stature, an expansion into underserved markets. And Wisconsin has a real access issue coming because of the significant amount of closures of facilities over the last couple of years and the projected additional closures that will be happening. Wisconsin is projected to have a real access issue, especially in rural areas. So there's a lot of opportunity for, stable, sustainable organizations to help keep aging services in some of those underserved areas. Yes. So aging campuses will continue to be a major focus. Independent living, is a real focus on hospitality, providing all the amenities that baby boomer retirees want. Expansion of independent living, there's a big focus on diversifying home sizes on campus. So a lot of campuses will offer apartment style independent living, some condos, some cottage homes, that sort of thing. Making sure that you have whatever people want, you have the right solution for them. Memory care addition and expansion, that continues to be a need. We continue to see that here, where our one memory care assisted living is the one that has stayed full throughout the pandemic and beyond, because there is such a need for that. And then post-acute care and skilled nursing home care, the real dichotomy between expanding that or contracting that. And a lot of that just depends upon organizational mission and the region that you're in. Obviously in Nebraska, it made sense for you guys to build a new nursing home a couple of years ago because there was a significant community need for it. But definitely some pressures, again, as I said, that we really can't be building semi-private rooms anymore. We've got to get down to private rooms and be offering household kind of models. On this site, I think the key here is, if you're not repositioning your campus today, then the competition is repositioning you out of the market. And that's, again, where I feel like I'm feeling compelled to do some strategic planning before some for-profit provider comes in here and makes our decisions for us. There are a couple of case studies in here. One is St. Camillus, which is a Catholic provider down in the Milwaukee area, Wauwatosa to be specific. They have a significant independent living offering. And then between assisted living units and memory care units, pretty similar to our size. And then a couple of smaller skilled nursing facilities that are pretty similar in size to us. So they began some master planning in 2012 and have phased in a couple of different projects and are starting to see the fruits of that. And I don't know that we need to get into that in depth, but I just share, a couple of other providers similarly sized to us that have been doing some repositioning. Cedar Crest in Janesville is another organization that their service offering is a little bit different from ours, but size-wise pretty similar. And I think they just, Ziegler, I think just closed like $80 million financing for them to kind of rebuild everything. And I'm not sure what their sponsorship or their ownership is at Cedar Crest. But growth through satellite campuses, as I mentioned, the multi-sites are kind of figuring out that, it works to have a couple different campuses, especially if geographically it's makes some sort of sense, similar to, how we're operating McCormick at this point. Just a lot of benefits to having some smaller developments kind of nestled around maybe some sort of like main campus or home kind of hub. Again, just some reasons that satellite campus concept is gaining popularity. You can, especially I think, just build upon your brand in an existing market already and leverage resources in the local market from the parent campus. Satellites, there's a lot of different options for, where satellite campuses can be located.
What service going on in Wisconsin with the satellites?
Here is a slide that show new communities by state. So there's only 2 new communities in development in Wisconsin right now. But in terms of satellite campuses, I would say a lot of existing providers are probably acquiring other smaller providers in their general geographic area and like making them into their own like little satellites.
How is Oakview doing? Are they
Oak Ridge Gardens?
Oak Ridge Gardens, yes.
I think they're doing okay. I took a look at their star ratings and stuff yesterday while I had ours up, and from a quality perspective, since they reopened, they're doing well. They're challenged to staff enough to get their beds filled. So I think the owner there is in a position to probably be looking soon at selling, and that might create an opportunity for us. Yeah. So again, this just shows kind of the growth across the past 2 years, with a lot more happening with expansions and mergers than building of new communities, and then a little bit of activity with dispositions and closures. In terms of Catholic senior living, since 2009, so in about the last 14 years, about 120 Catholic sponsored facilities have changed owner or sponsor. Of those that have gone to another nonprofit, 52% went with another Catholic organization, 32% went with a faith-based non-Catholic provider, and then 16% went with a not-for-profit that was not faith-based. This just kind of is an overview of the comprehensive senior living and services model, which would include, market rate, independent living, with that, hospitality, amenity focus, a middle market independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, and government subsidized housing for those with pretty limited resources. Including continuing care at home, home health, home care, hospice, adult day, PACE. So again, we're there in a lot of those areas in terms of our comprehensive offerings. Rationale for diversification, I think, this is pretty self-evident as well in terms of finding additional revenue, managing risk by not having, all of our eggs in one basket, ancillary service lines, being able to support our primary service lines, which we have seen throughout our history as we've developed additional programs that help offset the overhead that comes with running a skilled nursing facility, especially of the size that we have. Some emerging lines of diversification in aging services include getting into having your own pharmacy business, behavioral health, being an actual rehab provider, since most long-term care facilities outsource rehab. There's an opportunity like the one that we have started to work towards with MediRehab Alliance to provide our at least invest in a rehab provider that is serving other organizations. Technology related, so the IT company that we use is aging services specific and was founded by a number of our colleague organizations, and then they go out and serve organizations like ours, and they reap some financial benefits from the profits that firm makes. And again, management services and consulting. There's another example from an organization in Minnesota called Newt Nelson that just really focused on diversification of some revenue streams. Some senior living joint venture data. Most commonly, joint ventures are with another nonprofit senior living provider, somewhat with home health and home care agencies, which we actually have a joint venture with a home care agency where they hold the license, we provide the skilled therapists, and we kind of, we get reimbursed for that therapist time plus a little profit, and we can kind of use that home health agency as if it's our own. And some other joint ventures are emerging with between long-term care facilities and hospitals and health systems, physician groups, particularly around like accountable care organizations. Again, the case for joint ventures, you know, spreads the risk, kind of providing for flexibility and you know, better access to cash and capital, although it can bring some headaches too, as I'm sure you're well aware with sharing governance with two organizations now at Holy Family and Genesis. So that's a real quick rundown of kind of the state of senior living and aging services, specifically in the Catholic world, that I thought would just be really good information for all of you.